All right, guys, it is July 6th, 2023, Thursday night, a little after, well, it's like 11:20 right now, 11:20 p.m. Another one of my late night talks. I'm not sure how long this is going to be. Last couple times I made these videos, I enjoyed making them. I wasn't sure how they were going to go over, and I got some positive feedback, and it sounded like people would want a little more of these kinds of videos because they seem a little more casual, a little more conversational, kind of relaxing. The kind of things that I talk about will be things that you might find yourself discussing on your back porch as you see me now. So I might do more of these. It would be a real blessing to me if it really, swung in my favor because these are fun to do. These are just fun to do. Sometimes when you're trying to make what you believe is going to be really good content takes almost too much thought, too much deliberation, and you tend to overanalyze and overthink everything, and you don't ever, well, at least me, I should speak for myself. Sometimes you don't feel happy with the way things turn out, despite how other people might feel. I mean, you get positive feedback most of the time, almost all the time, but I don't know. It's just, hang-ups that I have personally. And when I do these kind of discussion videos, it's just relaxing for me. And like I said, it seems to go over well. So it's about, the last time I looked on my phone, it was 78 degrees out here, and something like, I think it's about, the same humidity level, if not higher. So it's very muggy out here. It feels much warmer than it is. The air feels wet. Just feels very, very heavy. But nevertheless, I still enjoy the peace and quiet of being out here. And I was really looking forward to being able to make this video because I've been uploading videos that I've had stored away on an SD card from like 4 months ago that I never uploaded. And I said to myself, I need to make room for more videos. It was getting to the place where I've been trying to make a video a day and upload 5 days a week. It got to the place where I had too many videos backed up to where I didn't have any more room on my SD cards or on my phone to be able to make more. So I had to kind of stop making videos and just, try to catch up a little bit. And then I realized I've got these videos that are 4 months old from Savannah, Georgia on my devices. So I've been uploading those. And those don't really involve me talking. It's just, they're just walking videos, just walk tour videos, so to speak. And I enjoy doing those. But, ever since I started uploading 5 days a week and trying to make a video a day, I've really come to enjoy the talking ones more, which is not what I expected at all. I thought it'll just be too much work. It just won't be what I want to do because it's just too involved, and I got too many other things I'm wrapped up in, and I got things in my mind. Well, it turns out that it's quite cathartic for me, which is what I'm hoping that they'll be for you. So I have missed it. And I do have one more Savannah video that I get up. I may put that up before I put this one up, but I kind of doubt it. I think I'll just put this one up right away and then upload my last Savannah video to Monday morning maybe. So, and it's not really one that I like a lot. It's called Colonial Park. It's a cemetery is what it is there. And it dates back to the Revolutionary period, the beginning of our nation. And there's a lot of Revolutionary War luminaries that are buried there, signers of the Declaration of Independence, which is really neat to me. And I'm not saying it's not my least favorite video there because of that. It's the way I made it. It was kind of an afterthought, kind of an impulsive video shoot. So I just, I wish I would have put more thought into it, but I'll try to do the best I can with it. And I hope you guys like it. But that may be the end of some of the walking videos for a while. I did try to make a motorcycle video when I came back with my 360 camera. That was fun. However, I think I picked the wrong settings. Some of it turned out too dark. I don't think I'll use it, but it kind of gave me an idea for what I need to do. I might try to reshoot it this weekend and upload it next week. And if it turns out the way I'd like to, I think you guys will enjoy it, because my other two motorcycle videos got a fair amount of views on them. And, I think that there's probably a demand for that kind of thing. And it's just fun getting on a motorcycle, driving around. And with this 360 video, which is what I'm shooting on right now, I'm using the single lens setting instead of the 360 view. I'll get more into that later, but I was using this camera doing the 360 video on the motorcycle, and it was just really cool the way it turned out. So I'm looking forward to redoing that and getting it right, and making something worthy of it. But yeah, so we have been back from Key West for like a week and a half almost. Well, no. When did we get back? Oh, almost 2 weeks ago. Yeah, we got back from Key West almost 2 weeks ago. We took a little mini vacation there. And I didn't intend on making hardly any videos, just maybe a couple of me just sitting around talking, which I made 2 of those. I ended up making way more than I thought I would, and I think they turned out pretty well. If you haven't seen my Key West videos, go to my playlist, like my 4K walking tour playlist, whatever it's called. Go to that. I'll probably have it at the end of this video or something, but a link, or I'll put it down below in the description. But those turned out pretty good. I went to the Ernest Hemingway House and Museum. I did a catamaran boat ride out to the coral reef. I didn't get to do as much of that video as I would have liked, because once we got out there, I got busy snorkeling, and I wanted to do some underwater video, but for reasons that I don't want to take the time to mention here, I didn't want to put this camera underwater, even though it is waterproof. I feel like I might have compromised this camera a little bit, so I didn't want to take any chances. But about 10 minutes before they called everybody out of the water, I decided to go back onto the boat myself, and because I started feeling a little sick. I was nauseous all the way back to shore, which is about a 45 minute ride. And man, I was feeling so bad. And it's horrible, because I could have gotten some really good video. But anyway, the video turned out really good. It ended up being one of my favorite videos. I just was really pleased with how that turned out. And I would advise taking a look at that if you haven't already. I did go to the Fort Zachary Taylor Park, historic park, and I ran into a man there who owns a beard company, and he's out of Tampa. And I would, if you have a beard, if you like that kind of thing, take a look at that, because it just happened to be a chance meeting. I saw this guy walk out of the area where the soda machines are, and I said, "Hey, you have an epic beard, man. It's really nice." Lo and behold, he's got his own beard company, and it's out of Tampa, which is like a hop, skip, and a jump down the road from me. So it turns out that he was already following me, and I think I was already following him. No, wait a minute. No, he was already following me. I ended up following him on Instagram. And I do believe I've seen him before, and I just happened to run smack into him while I was there, which is pretty cool. But I caught it all in video. Where else did I go? Oh, I did a wharf walk there, and that was pretty cool. But I actually saw a shark at the end of that video. I didn't include that in there because you wouldn't have been able to see it very well. But I actually saw a shark up by the boats, and so I wish I could have made that a little more readily visible to the viewers, but it is what it is. So we had fun down there in Key West. It's one of those places I don't know if I would care if I ever went to again. Living up here in Central Florida and having access to the beaches on both sides, I guess it's kind of spoiled me. The beaches on the West Coast, on the Gulf side, are rated some of the best beaches in the world, at least in the United States. You have Paso Grill, you have Anna Marie Island, you have Treasure Island, St. Pete Beach, you have Clearwater, and those are just marvelous beaches. And the Key West beaches, just to me, paled in comparison. And I did two different videos, two different beach videos while I was there. You can watch those and tell me what you think. I did not enjoy them. I just, I just held them up against what I know up here, and it left me wanting. But Key West is expensive. Here's what I advise if you end up going there at all. Number one, um, find a parking space that's free. Okay, and it's hard to do. It's a real commodity there. Find a parking space that's free, because when you go around these Airbnbs and Verbos or whatever, because we stayed in a Verbo, very nice, very expensive, but you have all these parking spaces everywhere, but they're all taken up, and you'll notice there's paint marking what is what, and most of them are resident permit, which means that people are basically permitted or licensed to be able to park there. And every once in a while, you'll find a parking space that's not marked that's free. When we got there, we just happened to pull up to a free parking spot. I mean, it was just chance. I'd like to say it was probably God, because as soon as we did, someone pulled up behind us and they were kind of upset that we had that space. And you know what? I never found another free parking space the rest of the time. So when you get to Key West, find your free parking spot, leave your vehicle there, either walk, bike, scooter, or Uber anywhere else you have to go. That's my advice. That's it right there. There's a lot of things you can do there, many of which are expensive, but I would say the snorkeling trip that we took was not really that expensive. My wife told me it was like $45 a person. Not bad. It was great. I've never been to the Coral Reef. I've never done anything like that before. It was amazing. Really, really intriguing to me. So I would suggest going to the Coral Reef, getting out on the boat, and snorkeling. That was fun. We were going to do a shark feeding trip or whatever, but we just weren't able to pull it off. I'm kind of glad, because I spent a lot of money down there. We spent a lot of money down there. Anyway, the trip down there was okay. When on our way to, let's see, we live in Lakeland, which is smack dab in the center of Florida. On our way down there, I've never been further south than Fort Myers. I saw sugarcane fields for the first time. I have never even heard, and I've lived in Florida since 1986. I've never even heard anybody talk about these sugarcane fields. And I was just I know it sounds weird, but I was kind of blown away by it, because I don't know why that's escaped me all this time. And they were just as far as the eye could see. It was everywhere up to a certain point. You get down there by Miami and they kind of start to fall off. So, after like the Sebring area all the way down to Miami, you see them everywhere. And I thought that was pretty cool. And, here's another thing. Iguanas. So there are really big iguanas down there. And I know that they're supposed to be everywhere in Miami. Here's the thing. I saw a few. I didn't see a lot. And we kept looking. My kids saw them more than I did, because I was focused on driving. And my 16-year-old son, was keeping his eyes peeled because he likes that kind of thing. I saw one or two big iguanas. My wife saw a really, really big one on the beach there. And unfortunately, I kind of missed it, and I wish I could have caught him on video. But that's kind of a neat thing, because you just don't see that anywhere else. At least not that I know of. And when we were being Ubered around, we had one Uber driver who sounded very Jamaican to me. My son said he sounded Haitian. I did not think he sounded Haitian at all. I thought he sounded very Jamaican, but whatever. And I asked him, I said, "Hey, do you ever see these big iguanas around here?" He goes, "Oh yeah, biguana." So it just kind of stuck in my mind. He kind of merged the two words, or at least it sounded like it, and he's because it sounded like he was saying biguana, and so now that's what I call him. I call him biguanas. It was funny to me, but I'm sure they see him all the time. It's not anything really special, but that was kind of cool. That was really neat. So the trip was very productive. I took, like I said, I took a lot of video there. I was really surprised. I didn't set out to do that, but it worked out. I'm glad I had my cameras with me. And so if you want to see how my trip went, I've shared it with you guys on YouTube here. Check them out. Okay, check them out. So I was glad to be back because once you get onto Highway 1 down there, or US 1 or whatever it's called, that's 160 miles to the Key. It's Keys. It's just a two Key West, I should say. It's a two-lane highway almost all the way down, and it's not like 55 miles per hour. Maybe in a few places it is. The sights are great, but it's a slow 160 miles. So, take your patience pills before you take that journey if you're going, if you're driving there. But I'm glad we went. I'm glad we finally did that. My wife's been trying to talk me into doing that since I've known her, which has been a long time. And yeah, it was interesting. It was it was something I'm glad we did. We'll probably end up doing it again sometime, but I'm not in a hurry. We did do a haunted tour the first night we were down there. I'm not into that kind of thing, but my wife is. Some of the stuff I'm saying you guys have heard before, but not everybody has seen my videos. So I'm just kind of giving a recap here. And of course, I didn't see anything. I didn't anticipate that I would. But, you hear some history. It's kind of nice. And I saw Action Kid, a YouTuber that I like a lot. So I've mentioned that in a couple videos, so I won't talk about it anymore. So since I've been back, we have been trying to relax and just trying to catch up, and we're caught up now. But there's nothing like coming home, is there? It's just kind of nice getting back home, laying in your own bed, just getting around familiar surroundings, knowing that you don't have to spend any more money. Except I had to catch up on bills when I got back. I wish I would have done all that before I left. I didn't pay them late. It would have been nice not to have to look at them when I got back. So that's another piece of advice. If you're going to go on vacation, go ahead and just pay bills ahead of time so when you come back, you don't have to worry about them, think about them, look at them. And I think you'll be a lot happier for it. So anyway, a couple of days ago, I was looking for something to watch. I don't watch a lot of TV, not very much at all. And I turned Netflix on. I hardly ever turn Netflix on. I used to. I used to watch a lot of Netflix, but my family does mostly. So I turned it on there. And biographies and documentaries, history stuff is what I like. Unless you're talking about things like Ozark or Breaking Bad, things like Narcos. I like those kind of shows. All drug themed, right? And it's very relevant to the culture I grew up in. I mean, I didn't grow up around drugs. I mean, kind of who didn't really, but I remember a lot of the stuff that those shows are made about. Anyway, getting past all that, I saw a documentary. What's it called? MH370, about the disappearing plane. MH370. Guys, I recommend watching this. Now, I vaguely remember when this took place. This is something that occurred on March 8th, 2014. I would have been 44. Yeah, I would have been 44 years old. I had a lot of things going on in my life at that time, so it might have just kind of went over my head. But it seems like I have a vague recall about it. But there's this jumbo jet that took off from Malaysia one evening around 1:40 in the morning, and it was going to cross, what is it, the South China Sea? And halfway across, because it's flying to, what was it flying to? Oh, good Lord. I had this all so well in my head. Well, Bangkok. I think it was flying to Bangkok. I think. Anyway. The airports in Vietnam were supposed to take over communications with the pilots once they got to a certain point over the South China Sea. And once they got halfway and transmission was supposed to relay over electronically, they went dark. I mean, the plane just vanished. Just vanished. And it had 239 people on board. Nobody knew what happened to this plane. It had enough fuel in it to last for 6 hours. It never landed. They couldn't find debris for a long time. Of course, people were just in turmoil. Families, loved ones were in turmoil over this. They documented all of this. They showed a lot of it on the special, where they're having meetings with the Malaysian Airlines. And they couldn't get the answers they wanted, and the Malaysian people were outraged and angry. But the Malaysian Airlines didn't have any clues to how to answer these questions, because they themselves didn't know what happened or what was going on. And it was really interesting to watch this all unfold, because all these conspiracy theories developed. Well, the whole thing was a conspiracy. I mean, well, filled with conspiracies, because you didn't really know what happened. You had to, you had to hypothesize. There had to be plenty of conjecture, because you had to consider all the possibilities. You had to consider all the options that could have taken place for this plane to disappear. I feel like I'm sinking down in my seat. So they didn't really know. They didn't really have any clue what became of this thing. It never showed up anywhere, and so all these people were so troubled about it. There's so much involvement from private companies to the public in trying to locate debris, which some was found, but they weren't. They tried to claim that it was from that particular jet, but there was no telltale signs that it was. They suspected Russia of shooting it down. They suspected one adventurer of being a Chinese spy, a Russian spy, an American spy, somebody from an intelligence agency overseas tried to leak information that the Americans were involved. And in the end, I'll have to say, I'm not really giving anything away, because anything I'm telling you, you can find out. This is old news by now. And you just need to watch the show. It's 3 episodes. Definitely worth watching. It's very gripping. But by the end of it, I can't help but feel like the Americans had something to do with it. Because there was technology that was being transported surreptitiously on this plane that no one was telling anybody about. The Americans, with their, those planes with the big round satellites on top, they pick up everything. I mean, in quite a huge radius. The Americans knew about this, and they had to stop them. They didn't want the Chinese getting this technology. So it's believed they tried to force the plane down, but the pilot wouldn't agree. And they considered the possibility that it might have been shot down. They also considered the possibility the pilot might have performed a murder-suicide by diverting the plane back in the other direction and back down the South Indian Ocean area out in no man's land, or possibly back further up north, up into like Kazakhstan, Russia, and whatnot. It's weird. The whole thing is weird. Very, very suspicious. And to this day, there's nothing absolutely confirmed about this. That's what is so weird. That's what's so weird. So I highly recommend watching that. Quite a bit. It's just it's really interesting. So So lately, I've been reading a book, and I've brought this book up before. It's called Isaac Storm. Isaac Storm, written by Eric Larson. I've read other books by Eric Larson. He's fantastic. I think this is one of his earlier books. I wouldn't say it's as good as some of his other ones, but he's still a fantastic writer. And this is good. This is good, but I'm reading it because I like Eric Larson, and I have a natural curiosity about hurricanes because I live in a place where hurricanes are a reality. I mean, we are under the threat of them all the time. And this takes place. Well, this man's name is Isaac Klein, and he was somewhat of a meteorologist. But the story takes place back in 1900, when a storm hit, and I'm learning things that I'll probably never fully digest, and it's helpful. He's very detailed about you know climate meteorological information and things like this. All the vernacular, the terminology. He gives a lot of it in here. He tries to explain it. Some of it goes right above my head, but it's still fun to read about. You get his gist. You really do, and he does a really good job of talking about the history of hurricanes and cyclones. Well, I came across. Let me see if I can find this. I came across some really interesting information. As bad as hurricanes are, they're nothing compared to what they used to be 120 years ago, going back to even 300 years ago. Some of it is because they weren't as well prepared. They weren't warned well in advance like we are now. But the hurricanes themselves back then, it seems like they were so much more destructive in and of themselves than they are now. Let me give you some examples. And page 45 here of this, he's talking about a cyclone that occurred, or a hurricane that occurred back in 1703. Okay? Listen to this. I should have brought some water out here. He said, in 1703, a storm of great power and endurance brought the realities of cyclones to the heart of London itself. In giving England the worst storm of her history, it also advanced the literary career of Daniel Defoe, Robinson Crusoe, a 43-year-old editor and journalist with a taste for disaster. For 2 weeks, in November 1703, a pod of strong gales paralyzed shipping off the coast of England. Outbound ships had to remain in port. Inbound ships had to stay at sea. On Wednesday, November 24th, the winds abated. By Thursday, hundreds of ships, including a contingent of Russian warships under ceremonial escort by the British man-of-war reserve, began to move in a slow and graceful waltz over the rough old seas left behind by the storms. The reserve put off in Yarmouth. Her captain, convinced the worst was over, went ashore with his ship's surgeon and clerk to buy provisions. In Deal, this is a town, a small town overlooking the treacherous Goodwin Sands near Dover, Mayor Thomas Powell spent the day at his full-time job as slop seller, peddling supplies for seamen. In Plymouth, Henry Winstanley and a crew of workmen set out for the Barbican Steps on a 14-mile sail to Winstanley's controversial Eddystone Light to repair its failed beacon. His critics had charged the lighthouse was unsafe, to which Winstanley responded that his one wish was to be inside the structure during the greatest storm that ever blew under the face of heaven. He goes on to say here, scientists understood that foul weather tended to be accompanied by falling barometric pressure, although why this should be the case remained a mystery. Late on Friday, November 26th, the barometer owners of England saw the level of mercury begin to fall, then plummet. The storm struck with such ferocity that Queen Anne was escorted into the basement of the Palace of St. James and there deposited in a wine cellar. Wind stripped the roof off Westminster Abbey and demolished over 400 windmills in some case turning their mill cells so fast that friction set the buildings on fire. Can you imagine that? The wind hurled roof tiles like cannon shot. The storm destroyed 700 vessels on the Thames within London, jumbling them into great piles of debris, bowsprits impelling stern cabins. A tangle of rigging and tackle lay all over all as if a giant spiderweb had settled upon the wreckage. Along the Severn River, storm waters breached sea walls and drowned 15,000 sheep. Salt spray turned leaves white. Antoine Van, I don't know how you pronounce this last name, Leeuwenhoek, I don't know, the naturalist, wrote how at 8 the next morning I cast my eye upon my barometer and observed that I had never seen the quicksilver so low. On land, 128 people died, many killed by the collapse of fireplace chimneys. At sea, the story was different. If not for the clamor of wind and surf, what one would have heard that night up and down the coast of England was the thin cry of doomed men, stranded or adrift, many hanging from the tops of masts that now protruded only a few feet from the sea. So that, I mean, it's really crazy. Like the devastation that people experienced was so much greater. He goes on to give you much more detailed information about the devastation that occurred. Here's another one. In all, the Great English Cyclone of 1703 killed over 8,000 seamen aboard hundreds of ships. One victim was the man of war Reserve, which is the one I just mentioned earlier. I stumbled all over myself trying to say it. As the storm intensified, her captain, surgeon, and clerk raced back to the wharf in Yarmouth, where all they could do was stand up and watch as the seas consumed the ship and all aboard. Man, I tell you what, that's crazy. I mean, the thing that I was trying to visualize was the wind being so strong that it was turning the cells on the windmills so fast it was actually catching the buildings on fire. Can you imagine? Can you imagine seeing that for yourself? I mean, that's something we're probably likely, even in the age that we're in, where everybody has a camera, we're probably never going to catch anything like that. I mean, the closest thing we've caught is those big what do you call those things that generate electricity? I can't. I don't know why I'm not thinking of it now. Um, they're kind of like windmills, They anyway, you usually have like those three propellers. You've seen accidents happen with those on video, but I don't think even that would compare with this. But the devastation was so rife. The number of lives that it cost was just insurmountable. And that's because they couldn't be warned fast enough to not be in the area. They didn't know enough. And so, but that's what this whole book is about the forming of a meteorological society that was not believed in, was not supported, and Isaac Klein had to prove that it was a worthy endeavor. And there's more to it than that, which I'm not mentioning. If you've already read the book, I'm only like 78 pages into it. Fascinating book, but not the best one Eric Larson's ever written, but it's still good. It's still really good. Oh, I'm trying to decide how long I want to make this video. I think I've already been into it like 35 minutes, right? 36 minutes. Is that where we're at? Well, if you guys are okay with that, I'm okay with it. So, like I said, when we were down in Key West, we went to the Hemingway House and Museum while we were there, and they had a bookstore with nothing but Ernest Hemingway books in them. And I did not buy this book there, but I did take it with me, Men Without Women. I've read 2 stories in this so far. The first one was about a bullfighter and the bullfight. Not that entertaining to me. The second one was better. I can't tell you right now whether I recommend it or not. But I have a feeling that Hemingway for me is going to be one of those writers that's kind of on and off with me, because I've read For Whom the Bell Tolls, and that was really good. And then I read another one of his that I didn't like. I can't remember the name of the book. I did not like at all. So I think he's going to be a hit and miss kind of author with me. And these right here, Men Without Women, these are all short stories. The problem with short stories is I got spoiled by W. Somerset Maugham, a very great author, and he wrote tons of short stories. And in my opinion, he was the best. He was the best at them. So it's kind of like I was talking about the beaches earlier. When you go to other beaches, you compare them to the ones you have up here. When I read short stories by Somerset Maugham, and then I read somebody else's, it's hard not to compare them. It's really hard not to compare them. So I did read something the other day in Seth Godin's book, This Is Marketing, that I thought was really interesting. Um, I need to look up what page this is on. Oh well. Oh yeah, page 149. I'm sorry, guys. I just had to need to put my glasses on. It takes me longer if I don't have them on. Okay, here's something interesting. Have you ever? Okay, you know that one of the ways people get spammed and scammed is by these Nigerian emails that people get saying, "Oh, I just lost everything. Can you please help me?" Or any number of things they might say to get your attention and to play on your empathy and sympathy. And one of the things that a lot of people are very savvy about this, we know what to look for, the misspellings, the funky looking email addresses and whatnot. There's a lot of red flags that go up when these things come across. And I would say probably most people don't fall for these Nigerian scams, right? Have you ever said to yourself, can't they ever get any smarter? Don't they ever don't they ever learn from all the information that's out there about how to avoid their scams? Why don't they ever get any smarter and start spelling correctly and you know becoming a little more believable? Seth Godin says something here, and I'm not going to go into all the reasons why he says this, but listen to this. He actually has a little part in this book called "Why is Nigerian Spam So Sloppy?" He says, if you've gotten an email from a prince offering to split millions of dollars with you, you may have noticed all the misspellings or other telltale clues that it can't possibly be real. Right? We're just talking about that. Why would these sophisticated scammers make such an obvious mistake? Because it's not for you. Because it's not for you. Because they're sending a signal to people who are skeptical, careful, and well informed. Go away. Kind of an odd thought. He goes on to explain. The purpose of the email is to send a signal to the greedy and the gullible, because putting anyone else into the process just wastes the scammer's time. They'd rather lose you at the beginning than invest in you and lose you at the end. Isn't that something? I would have never guessed. It makes sense, but I would have never guessed that they do it on purpose. They do it because they're trying to thin the herd, right? They don't want the smart people. They want the gullible people. They don't care that you know. They don't even care that you report this. They don't care that you make videos and put them on YouTube where you create some kind of virtual curriculum to inform companies. They don't care because they know they're going to get people who, regardless, are going to fall for anyway, and they just need to thin the herd. And it reminds me about all the red flags that go up in our lives and all the other places, right? We get plenty of red flags about many things, don't we? And when we've made a bad decision or have gone forward with something that we knew we shouldn't have done, we oftentimes reflect and say, there were red flags that went up and I just didn't heed them. I didn't pay attention to them. I didn't really give them the attention that they demanded, right? If you are in the dating pool, this applies to you. If you don't even have to be dating, you could just be making friends. You could be looking for a place to work, a place to go. If red flags go up, pay attention to them. And oftentimes we think, I think this really hits on something, because if you really take it to the end, if you take it to its logical end, at least I think that's what I'm doing here, it makes you realize that a lot of times we may not be giving enough credence to the red flags because we don't want to believe that somebody would do something like this on purpose, or that things are not as malicious as they might seem, as toxic as they might appear, right? We give others the benefit of the doubt, not thinking that people might be doing these things on purpose because they're trying to thin the herd. Don't be gullible. When red flags pop up in your life, pay attention to them. I know I have overlooked way too many myself, so I'm preaching to the choir. But yeah, I thought that was very enlightening, and I hope that's helped you. Well, I have many more things I could say, but I do need to get to bed. It's midnight now. I'm looking at my clock here, and it's 12:01. So I'm going to end this video here. If you've liked this video, please hit the thumbs up. Leave a comment for me, and tell me what you think. To give me your opinion, give me your viewpoints, give me some feedback. I appreciate it. I like getting that. I like hearing from you guys. And if you look down at the bottom right of the video, underneath where you have like the thanks button, the subscribe button, all that, there's a notification bell. If you don't tap on that, you won't know when I have future uploads come out. You'll just have to kind of hope you trip across them. But you don't have to do that. Just hit the notification bell and you'll know right away as soon as I upload something. So having said that, guys, thanks for listening to me. I hope I haven't worn you down. I hope I've made good choices in the things I've chosen to talk about. Like I said, I have much more. Maybe I'll make another one of these tomorrow night. And I hope that you'll join me when I do. Okay. I think that'll be it. It's really hot. I feel like just from sitting here, I need to go take a shower now because it's so stinking hot. I don't think I can go to bed feeling like this. All right. I will catch you guys in the next one. Be wise.